Hello, everyone. I'm John, the facilitator for the evening for you, and thank you for coming to the Orange County Department of Education Virtual College and Career Discovery Fair. We're so happy to have you this evening, and remember that after this panel, there will be other college sessions to go to as well, and there'll also be other ones throughout the week. At the end of this panel, you'll have a quick survey you can fill out to give us more information and feedback on how to make these events better for you as well. So that is all I need to share for you right now. Do not forget that if you do have any questions at all with the group, make sure you put that in the chat feature that's on your screen, and our presenters will definitely try to answer the questions as they go on, in the Q&A area, not chat area. It's gonna be in the Q&A area for the questions that you wanna have answered, and we'll do that along the way as you continue this event as well. And so that's everything from me. Now I'm going to turn it over to Margot and Mark. You guys are great to go.
Thank you, John.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I see your numbers are increasing, people coming into the room today. Welcome to the Wui session. And we'll just take one moment to let more folks in as the numbers continue to increase through the electronic door. All right. So you're probably noticing this isn't a webinar format. So your audio is muted and your video is also turned off as well. So you'll just be watching us today. And as was mentioned earlier, if you just tuned in, submit all your questions through the Q&A feature, and we will enter them at the end of the presentation, if at all possible. So my name is Mark Mcgee. I'm a college counselor at Bellarmine College Preparatory School in San Jose, California, and I'm happy to be on this panel for the Orange County Department of Education, talking about WUI. I've worked with admissions, college admissions, for all of my career, a few decades. I won't say how many, but before this year, I actually worked in college admission offices. And for the last 14 years, it was with a school that participated with the Western Undergraduate Exchange, or WUI. And with me today, my other panelist is Margot Colalancha, who is the Director of Student Access Programs at WICHE, which is the organization overseeing the Western Undergraduate Exchange. So again, please submit your questions through the Q&A feature, and we'll respond at the end of the presentation. So going on, why consider studying out of state? Well, there are a few reasons. Gaining greater independence, living away from home. Maybe that's your fast track cash. You might get more crash course toward confidence and adulthood. Maybe you might find colleges that will offer you a deal that you can't refuse, and ones where you can pay less than going to schools in California. You might find a campus environment that's got the perfect vibe for you, maybe that's not accessible to you in California for various reasons: geography, climate, the student mood on campus. You might be looking for a new cultural experience or lifestyle and go somewhere where the experience will seem different than the experience you're having in Orange County or wherever you're viewing from. And your future career choice may not be available in California. You might want to study tropical waters or oceanography or something. What better place to do that than from University of Hawaii? Or you might want to study Arctic studies or Northern Tier studies, and what better place to do that from but University of Alaska Fairbanks. But of course, many of the WUI schools are from the continental United States, so we'll be focusing a little bit more on those tonight. Okay, so going on, we'll be talking about what it takes to go out of state.
So Mark, you say that you're going to consider studying out of state. It's an option you want to explore, but do you really think it's feasible? Because I've heard it's really expensive. Tell me, so aren't tuition costs always higher out of state if you leave California?
Well, actually, that is a false statement, Margot. You might be surprised to find that out-of-state schools can be a lower cost for California residents than staying in-state, even at public universities inside California.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Now, what about the myth or truth that it takes longer to finish a degree out of state?
Well, actually, that's also false. It often can take a shorter amount of time to finish your degree at an out-of-state university, especially a public university that participates in WUI.
Good to know. Okay, what about the third point? Isn't it usually harder for California residents to get admitted outside of California instead of staying in California institutions?
Well, actually, when you're talking about public universities in California, it's often easier to be admitted to public universities in Western states through WUI, because we all know that the University of California and the California State University system, some of their campuses and some of their majors are very difficult to get into.
Good to know. Good to know. So then basically the majors are tend to be less impacted or more impacted in California.
Yes, so the majors tend to be less impacted or less competitive for admission outside of the state. Inside of California, you find some majors that are always sort of choke points, difficult to get into: nursing programs, engineering programs, some business programs, architecture school. And you may have an easier time being admitted at some of these out-of-state schools that participate in the Western Undergraduate Exchange program.
Good to know.
Oh, and I guess I would say there's one final question. Is there a great way to save on tuition costs, Margot?
Well, as a matter of fact, there is, and it's thanks to WICHE's WUI, it's Western Undergraduate Exchange. So you've got to be asking, WICHE's kind of a strange name, and so close to a Halloween, you really must be wondering, what is WICHE and what is WUI, right? Well, WICHE stands for the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. It's a nonprofit agency, a regional compact of Western states, and it was actually established 68 years ago in 1953 to help Western states share their limited higher ed resources. So it's got a long-standing track record of giving students in the Western states affordable higher ed options. Its membership, you can see the map, it's comprised of the 15 Western states and the US Pacific territories. So WICHE is actually the agency that provides oversight to the WUI program, the Western Undergraduate Exchange. And I want to tell you a little bit more about WUI. It's actually America's largest regional interstate tuition savings program, and it's been operating since 1988. We have 162 community colleges and universities that participate. It's all public institutions. We don't have any privates. The institutions are located in the 14, actually 15 if we include California, because California does enroll some WUI students from other states, but you as a California resident don't need WUI, obviously, because you're going to get resident tuition. But so in 14 other states, plus the US Pacific territories, your opportunity to earn certificates, associates, and bachelor's degrees at reduced cost. Tuition is never more than 150% of in-state tuition, the enrolling institutions in-state tuition. And last year, 42,500 students saved $411.7 million on out-of-state tuition, which is pretty incredible. And of that, the California residents are actually the biggest users of the program. So almost 18,000 of you saved $191 million, which is pretty amazing. So now, Mark, why don't we show the students and parents just a few gems, some examples of some great deals where they can go, and some really wonderful campuses.
Okay, excellent. I will do that, Margot. So when looking at these slides of colleges, I want you to first look at the very bottom there, so you understand that in the California State University, or CSU, the yearly tuition rate is about $5,700. If you go to a University of California campus like UCLA, the tuition is about $11,400. So everything we see up above, compare it to either CSU tuition of $5,700 or UC tuition of $11,400. So let's just take Washington State, a member of the Pac-12. You might see them occasionally playing USC or UCLA in football, but their in-state tuition is very reasonable if you live in Washington, but you don't. Their full non-resident tuition is quite a bit above that. But when you get the WUI tuition, the Western Undergraduate tuition, it brings it down closer to what Washington's residents pay. So as a Wui student, if you got Wui at Washington State, you'd only pay about $16,200 there in red, and relate that back to UC tuition is about $11,000. So it's not that far above what you'd pay to go to UC Riverside, UC Irvine, or UCLA. Colorado State also is part of Wui. So you can see there the Wui tuition at Colorado State is about $18,000. So you'd save $9,700 over what the full out-of-state tuition is. Think of Wui, I've often said this, as neighbor state tuition. It's a neighbor state tuition rate. University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and University of Nevada, Reno, especially University of Nevada, Reno, we send a lot of students there. California does, but their Wui tuition is $10,900. That's actually less than you would pay in-state to go to a UC campus. So that's amazing. And actually, it's amazing that last year about 1,800 California students enrolled at University of Nevada, Reno through Wui. Northern Arizona University, also a large recipient of California Wui students. Their tuition is about $15,900. And maybe, I don't know if it's good, I'll make the little joke that many people make, that so many California students go to Northern Arizona University through Wui, they have a secondary name of UC Flagstaff, which is where they're located. Okay, going on. All right, so you'll see there's some other states. We just have a few more here. Arizona State is part of Wui, but just certain parts of Arizona State. They have a few campuses there in the Phoenix area. So the downtown campus, Polytechnic campus, and West campus, they participate in Wui with $14,000. Montana State also is very reasonable at about $6,000. That's just a little bit above the Cal State tuition level. Dixie State University in St. George, Utah, beautiful area, part of the Utah educational system, about $7,000. And then Oregon Institute of Technology, OIT, Klamath Falls, about $13,400, a great alternative to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo or Cal Poly Pomona. All right.
Oh, wait, there's more, Mark.
Is there? Okay.
There's more.
There's more. All right. So let's go with Western Washington University. Beautiful in Bellingham, just a gorgeous campus right there in Puget Sound, $11,000 for tuition. Southern Oregon University in a classic college town, Ashland, Oregon, where they have the Ashland Shakespeare Festival, $13,200. Fort Lewis College, they're called College in the Sky. They're in Durango, Colorado, on a mesa overlooking Durango, close to Telluride, and great snowboarding and skiing. $10,500 for Wui. And University of New Mexico, a very generous campus, large, right in Albuquerque on Route 66. Their tuition for Wui is only $10,000. And I know they offer other merit scholarships as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. Just a few notes, folks, too, about institutions that whether they do or don't participate. There are some often requested that don't participate. The University of Arizona State University Tempe, the main campus, does not offer Wui, but as Mark mentioned earlier, they do offer it for their downtown Polytechnic and West campuses. Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado does not participate. University of Colorado at Boulder is not participating in Wui, and neither do University of Oregon nor University of Washington. The University of Arizona Tucson campus does participate in Wui, but on a very limited basis. So just beware, the only majors that they're offering right now at the discounted rate are mining, engineering, and natural resources. So just wanted to make a mention to that. So you're asking yourself, well, this out-of-state thing might be something I want to explore. How do I explore my Wui options? Well, first of all, you're going to use our Wui Savings Finder, and I'm just going to show you a quick screenshot. This is going to be your best buddy to find out which institutions participate. Like I said, we've got 162 listed right now. 15 of those are in California. You don't need those, but you've got 147 more options to look at. And in this Savings Finder, it's a searchable database. So you're going to look for these different factors. You're going to find out, first of all, which institutions are a possibility for you. And do they offer your major? Is your major eligible at the discounted rate? Some majors they will make ineligible. Sometimes nursing's not available, for example. So some of their majors that are impacted by state residents, where the institution is located. You also want to check the application deadlines and minimum requirements. For example, do they require a minimum GPA, test scores, things like that, although we've seen really since COVID, very few requesting test scores now, or they're making it completely optional. You also need to find out whether or not a separate WUI application is required. Some of the institutions will automatically consider anybody from California or another WICHE member state, but others you have to specifically request the WUI rate. So be better safe than sorry. Make sure you check this out, okay? And then also just one final suggestion is to complete the FAFSA, and it opened on October 1st. WUI isn't typically need-based, but you still want to complete that to maximize your options, especially in these days of COVID. The economy is, quite uncertain. You don't know if your parents might have some changes, economic changes to your family in the future. So protect yourself. Make sure you fill out that FAFSA, and I believe it's an early March deadline this year. So just a few more things to know, and I think Mark alluded to this earlier. So room and board costs outside of California can be significantly less. The cost of living in a lot of our WUI states, other WICHE states, is cheaper. At WUI colleges, more students tend to graduate in 4 years because they have the majors more readily available. Many of the institutions are less impacted. They also, once again, I mentioned earlier, the institutions determine which of their majors are WUI eligible. So just because you want something doesn't mean it's available at the discounted rate. Make sure and check. Sometimes, or often actually, WUI is used as a merit-based award and tied to GPA. So do your best in high school and keep those grades up. The institutions can also set limits on the number of WUI awards that they award to new students in any given year. So beat the cap and apply early, because if they've reached their threshold by the time you've applied and you applied late, that will be very, very disappointing and sad for your family and may adversely affect your options. Most WUI institutions will accept transfer students, which is great news. It is up to you to work out, which of those classes that you've taken previously will count towards your major at the new institution. And always remember, you must remain in good academic standing to keep your WUI rate, typically a C or above average. So check that out. Make sure that you stay above that. Don't ever get into the red zone. One final mention, and most of you are probably, if you're traditional college-going students, you probably wouldn't qualify for an independent status as far as your tuition, et cetera, or not tuition, but as far as financial aid is concerned. But if you are in a special case where you might be able to do that, just remember you can't establish residency in the state where the institution is located while paying the WUI rate. So you typically have to pay a non-resident rate or just stay out a year while filing for residency. So keep that in mind as well.
All right. Oh, sorry.
Go for it, Mark.
There's actually one other thing I wanted to mention that kind of relates to that last slide, is that if you're a student, everyone knows in California, there's this pattern of classes to get into the UC system or the California State University called the A through G list of classes. And sometimes people maybe were not entirely successful and they didn't complete the entire A through G. So out-of-state schools can be kind of forgiving for that. They may not have the same A through G requirements as California does. And if what you've done doesn't quite match what in-state residents have to do, a lot of the WUI schools are pretty forgiving if there's one or two mismatches in what you've taken versus what the students in those states take. All right. So
great point, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's do some insider tips here as far as how to do your research. And because WUI, although it is one program and there is one common factor that states that all the WUI schools their tuition rate is always just 50% higher than the in-state tuition rate if you're part of WUI. but there are ways to investigate the colleges and how they individually award the Wui scholarship if they have different ways they award it. So you can use your high school's college portal. Some of your high schools use a system called Naviance or Maya, and many of those systems have their own college search section. So you can investigate colleges that way, especially the Wui colleges. Something called College Navigator, which is a government website that does help you search out especially financial aid options, but other options for colleges via sports or their majors. Then, as Margot said earlier, there's the Wui Savings Finder, which kind of a shortcut to it is wue.wiche.edu. The College Board, the folks that are over the SAT, they've got a kind of a college search website called bigfuture.collegeboard.org. And then for scholarships, to add to Wui, because sometimes Wui isn't quite enough, you still may need more. There's MyScholarly, which I think is a shortcut for scholarships. So it's a cute name, myscholarly.com, and also scholarships.com. And then I think the most important thing is, once you find a school you like, go to their website, and on any college website, in the search box for that website, type in WUE. They've all been optimized. So when you type in WUE, you'll get right to the page that says, Wui, to get the Wui scholarship on my campus, you have to have this GPA, or anyone from a certain state will get it, or it's for these majors, or there's a certain number, or that you have to have a separate application. It tells you from year to year what the different criteria are for Wui on those campuses. Okay. So insider tip number 2, merit aid. So again, besides Wui, there are other types of financial aid. Of course, there's need-based financial aid if your income is quite low, but then there's also other types of merit awards, like just academic scholarships that the schools award. Sometimes it doesn't even take a separate application. Everyone is considered based on the GPA from their high school. But there are athletic scholarships. Many people know Division I athletics, Division III athletics offer scholarships. There's academic scholarship that you do have to compete for sometimes and make special applications. They're not just awarded to everyone applying to a college. And then performing arts scholarships are another option for merit aid. And again, these can often be stacked. So you don't have to choose between one or the other. You can put them together to help equal the amount of financial aid necessary so that you can afford the out-of-state school, the out-of-state Wui school. All right, so let's talk about creating a balanced college list, because we've been talking about Wui, and certainly we want a number of your schools to be Wui. We think that's smart and something not everyone's thinking about. So it's sort of a little bit undiscovered and under the radar, and everyone loves to find sort of that hidden thing out there. So that's why we're telling you all about Wui. But you also want to talk about fit. You want to look at a school that fits you academically, if as far as the major it offers, or if you don't know your major right now, one that's big enough to offer a range of majors, for example, and the one that has a way for you as an undeclared student to seek out the major you want. So it's okay if you don't know your major. That can be another way to search for colleges. It's a financial fit. So you have to look at, is your family concerned with financial aid, and cost is no consideration, or is a lot of financial aid important to you, to your ability to go to school? So you can search by colleges based on how much financial aid they give, and you can look at other factors like how much financial aid someone typically gets at a school. They print lots of statistics about this in the financial aid section, so you can compare how generous schools are. And then the personal values of the school. So whether you're, a very conservative person, politically left-leaning, if you are very concerned about the environment or about social justice, or very strong in your faith, and you're looking at faith-based schools. So think about those types of fit. And then, again, ways to research your options using College Navigator. Capex.com is another great way to search out colleges and financial aid. And then that Wui Savings Finder as well. So we can go to the next one. And I think this is, this probably has some great thing. You want to be realistic and you want to have a range of schools. You know, people dream about UCLA, they dream about Berkeley, they dream about University of Washington, Stanford, University of Texas. But some of these schools are very difficult to get into, even if you have a very high GPA, maybe 4.0, or with advanced classes, you've got above a 4.0. So kind of make sure that on your college list, you've got some schools that may be a reach and you're not sure about their, if you'd be admitted academically. Generally, if a school admits 25% of their applicants or less, they'd fall into that reach category. A school where their average student they admit is more of a match to your GPA that you have in high school, that would be called a target. And a school that enrolls most of the students who apply, and admission is not really based on your academics, that's more of a likely school. So you want to just have a little bit of everything in there, so you don't put the kind of cliches, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so you have a range, so you know you'll have kind of a safety net if your reach schools end up not being possible for you via admission or via finances. Okay, the major can matter, I should mention, in terms of how selective a school may be. As we said, some majors are more difficult to get into, they're more impacted, or the admission is more competitive. So you want to be realistic there as well. And things you can do to enhance your chances of getting admission to a school. Demonstrated interest can matter at many schools. So you want to sign up for information on the college websites so they know you're interested. And when they send you an email, you want to open it and click through so they know you're interested. When you go on a college visit, don't just do it in a stealth manner where you just kind of drive by and walk yourself around the campus. Take the campus tour, sign up for that so they know you've been on campus and they know you're someone so interested you're likely to come if they admit you. Go to college fairs. Meet the representatives that work for the schools and make sure they get to know you, because chances are if they work in your area, they're going to be reading your application when you apply to that school. And follow the social media accounts, Twitter account, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever you use, and kind of befriend them or become someone who's known to them, so they can again reference back to know you're super interested in their campus. All right, so here's an example of a student who kind of sought out a Wui school, a school not a lot of people think about. If you're outside New Mexico, I don't know how many Californians know, there is a New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology. Obviously, you've got Oregon Institute of Technology, you've got Colorado School of Mines. Well, New Mexico has one too. And, this student wrote a very nice statement about Wui, and about the financial security of being on Wui and not having to use all the money for the undergraduate education, probably saving some money for graduate schools, who knows. But that was Zach from California. All right, and finally, you're more than a test score, and luckily now a lot of schools are test optional. So if you want to know which schools are not requiring college test scores like the ACT and the SAT, you go to fairtest.org. Because of COVID, more and more schools at a huge pace are moving to being test optional. So if you're not proud of your scores or you're worried about them, just don't send them. The schools treat you equally with those that do send their test scores. They just look at different things. They look at your activities, they look at the trend in your grades, or how rigorous the courses you select are. There's so many colleges in the US, great colleges. Don't get stuck on the top 40, the kind of marquee brands, okay, the labels. There are great schools out there like University of Nevada, Reno, or Southern Oregon University, or even, there's a lot of private schools that aren't on the top of everyone's list, but they're great institutions that produce wonderful, wonderful graduates, successful graduates. Apply to colleges where you'll maximize your acceptances. So, you can't get financial aid if the school doesn't admit you. So, you want to make sure that there are schools on your list that will say yes to you, and then you can kind of work with their financial aid offices. So what you do in college is more important than which college you attend. Okay, so the reputation of the college is not going to get you the job after you graduate. It's what kind of student you've become while you're at the college. So think about what you can do in the college and how you can grow, not just how impressed your parents' friends will be. Okay, consider out-of-state colleges to be part of your balanced college list. There's more of the world than California. And frankly, there's more than the world than Boston. If you're stuck on, Ivy League campuses, there are great campuses in the Midwest, for example. People never think of Chicago. They never think of Ohio. They're fantastic schools that have many of the same attributes as the schools students dream about in New England, for example. And then talk to your school counselor. They know things. Hopefully you go to a school where your school counselor does college counseling and not just kind of personal emotional counseling. And if you do have access to a counselor like that, get to know them and go to the programs that they offer. They know things and they will guide you.
Well, let's just kind of to summarize. Wui, obviously, it's a great option. It works. It's a win for students and the colleges that enroll Wui students. So as far as students wins, I mean, obviously it bridges the gap to impacted majors that in the California community colleges and universities. So you actually have alternatives through the Wui program. Yeah. And as Mark mentioned earlier, you don't have to be an A student to get Wui at all the schools that participate. Many will consider B and even C students. So, but just do make sure that you keep your grades up once you are awarded Wui, wherever you go. As Mark mentioned earlier, studying out of state, it expands your world. It gives you a chance to discover new places, perspectives, people, and more. And it also saves you money and motivates you to complete your degree on time. So typically they will, like I said, limit the time that you get the special rate. So that is an extra motivation to you to be focused and do your studies. And our institutions love Wui too. So it really helps them achieve their enrollment goals. It helps them fill specialized programs that they might not fill with just their in-state students. And then I think the really wonderful thing about the program is that it attracts motivated students from different backgrounds and perspectives to other areas of the country who normally wouldn't enroll there. And that melange of different students, urban versus rural versus, ethnic diversity, all these different types of students really enriching the classroom experience for everybody. And the professors appreciate it, the students appreciate it. It's just an overall win-win program for everybody. So now we're at the at the end of our presentation. We'd like to take questions. If anybody has some questions they'd like to ask.
So there have been some questions, Margot, so we can kind of dive into those, and folks feel free to type in your questions as we're answering others. And so I can ask our John, our facilitator, will there be a recording of this available later?
Yes, Mark, there will be one available at the end. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. So someone asked, California has the lowest tuition costs from those charts on average out of the entire country, it seems like, doesn't it? It indicated that, and it's true. California, among all the Wui states, I believe, does have the lowest public educational costs. It's most subsidized. And so, yes, that is true there. And so is it a good deal? Yes, it is a very good deal at California CSUs and UCs. But as far as there's a great imbalance between the number of students applying and the number of spaces available in those institutions. And
Mark, if you don't mind too, I just want to interject. So WICHE actually publishes an annual report for tuition and fees across the Western US of the public universities. And so if you want to see, Alaska through Wyoming, what the rates are being charged right now, that's a great resource. And I'll put that in our chat at the very end here.
So someone said, I'm not sure if it was a little typo or something, says, is Wui like FAFSA? And I don't know if they meant to type FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A. If they meant the FAFSA, WUI is not that. So the FAFSA is the application for need-based financial aid throughout the nation. And WUI is a tuition exchange agreement. And so at many colleges, a tuition rate.
Yeah, it's a regional tuition discounting program.
Right.
Yeah. So it is not financial aid. It will lower your financial aid need at the institution where you're going.
So someone asked, where can I find the list of WUI institutions? Are there also two-year WUI institutions? Margot?
Yes, there are. So right now I have this link up here and I'm going to try and paste it in as soon as we get done presenting. But there's a WUI handout on the web, and you can just also go to wue.wiche.edu. You can find it there. We have a downloadable PDF. And like I said, Wui Savings Finder, that's your best friend. You can also do dynamic searches using that as well.
Yeah, awesome. And there are two-year colleges, correct?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, there's about, I would say, we've got 160 total. I would say about 40% of them are community colleges, and the other 60% are universities.
Okay,
four-year institutions.
Can WUI also fund in-state tuitions?
No. Yeah, you don't. So for California, I mean, basically, you're looking for a discounted rate to go out of state.
Yeah.
So if you're staying in California, you don't need WUI. You're just going to pay resident tuition
As
for
a California resident, you would already be paying in-state tuition in California. That is the lowest tuition rate, lower than WUI would be for people from Nevada or Washington.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question that we get asked a lot.
Yeah. What is the most common school that students attend through WUI?
I would say NAU, Northern Arizona University. And like Mark said, it's there's usually over, close to 5,000 people that use WUI. And then as far as California residents, it's close to 4,000. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a fine campus. And it's Arizona. So from Orange County, it's actually closer to Flagstaff, I think, than it is to San Francisco as the crow flies. But it's at 7,000 feet. So it's kind of a mountainy feeling, sort of like Lake Tahoe without the lake. And there's skiing around it. And it's a comprehensive school with lots of programs. It doesn't feel at all like Phoenix or Tucson because of the elevation. It's really a very interesting school. And Flagstaff is a great college town.
It's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful area.
Okay, that is all we. Oh, wait, I heard that some WUI colleges freeze their tuition rates for the 4 years.
That's true. Yeah, they do have a few. We have a few institutions that have like a 4-year guarantee, and don't want to cite those from memory because they change all the time. But there are quite a few options. Yeah, quite a few. I don't know that I should say that, but I have noticed some options, and it seems like it's becoming increasingly popular to do that.
That was from our good friend Becky Merchant, who is the organizer of this panel.
Becky, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Anything else, folks out there? Any other questions you have?
I was going to put, can I do it? Let's see. Can I insert these in the Q&A? We'll make sure you have the links to the presentation or the special links that we've suggested too.
Yeah, I think you had them up on the screen, so they'll be part of the recording.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, I think we're done. A little ahead of time.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate you being here today. And I am very appreciative of Mark being here. He's got a wealth of expertise in college counseling, and he's been on the admission side for years. So I feel so lucky that he's here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And I know my students are thoroughly taking advantage of WUI this year, and they always do from my school. So I really look forward to Orange County families taking more advantage of WUI, checking it out. And I'm sure hopefully you'll seek out those colleges and investigate them and add them to your lists.
Excellent.
And as a reminder, before we finish up, please remember that there will be a recording of this extra panel at strivescan.com/COIS. So definitely looking for that in the next couple of weeks. Along with that, there will be other sessions this evening and all and throughout the week that you can find about different colleges from all around the country as well. So please attend those events as well for sure.
All right,
I think that's
everybody.
everything.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much
Thank you,
for coming.
everybody. Bye-bye.